Good morning, my dear friends. It's summer, it's vacation time, so it's the perfect moment to observe those plants that are at their most beautiful during our holidays. Today's episode will be dedicated to Buddleias and Hydrangeas. We'll see what the Hydrangeas look like in my garden right now. I'll tell you what treatments you can still do for Hydrangeas and what to do with Buddleias to make them bloom longer. But before I take you to those other plants, not just the Buddleia behind me, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell and be sure to leave a comment. Let me know if you like Hydrangeas or if you like Buddleia. Do you have Buddleia and Hydrangeas in your gardens? If you do, let me know which kinds you have. Maybe I'll get inspired by something too and introduce new varieties to my garden. And there will be an opportunity for that because I can already announce that there will be some small changes in my garden. So let's keep an eye on that too. Follow along, and if you turn on the notification bell, you'll get updates about new videos. Listen, I talked about Buddleias in the spring, about how I prune them. For example, using this Buddleia Sophie, the Sophie variety, and the Buddleia in front of me, I'll show it to you in a moment, the Peacock variety. We pruned this one differently, cutting it back to around 20 cm, right at the ground. See how it grew. Meanwhile, the other was cut a bit higher. It's true that this is a different variety, so it grows a bit differently, but now I'll tell you about this Sophie variety. Sophie is a variety that doesn't have very thick flower clusters, but they can be as long as 40 centimeters. At this moment, Sophie is actually in full bloom. The first flower clusters are already starting to fade, so it's about time to start cutting off those flower clusters. The flowers are fading. This one could still stay, but I wanted to show you here that you can cut it off. With Buddleias, we actually don't have much work to do during this period. It's also nice to trim these wilted flower clusters because it stimulates the plant to produce new shoots and flower buds and bloom even longer. I know it's quite a troublesome task, especially if you have really big Buddleias because they can get really large. I have Sophie here, which I cut back every year to about 20 centimeters, and it grows a bit taller than me, so it's not that troublesome to prune. I wanted to tell you that in a moment I'll show you another variety. I'll show you one more like this. A smaller variety, but I encourage you to watch the next episode, which will be coming up, because in the next episode I'll make a bouquet for $0 using Buddleia and Hydrangeas, which will also be the stars of that episode. Another Buddleia. This time it's the Peacock variety. It's definitely more massive. These flower clusters may not be very elongated, but they are really quite thick. See, it's really here. These flowers have a lot of mass and bloom a bit earlier than others. This Sophie, that's why it's already at the stage where you can easily cut off these faded flower heads. For me, because they're really thick, they even annoy me, so sometimes I just break them off like this, leaving only this tip, because if they're really thick, they kind of mess things up for me here later on. The overall look. This one grows much slower. It has smaller growth. Even though it was cut higher, it has smaller growth, and on top of that some deficiencies are showing up here, like yellow leaves. However, I think that's more because of a lack of water in this spot. I think I'll diagnose it and see what I can do so that the leaves don't turn yellow like this anymore. And now come with me, we're going to the next Buddleia, a much smaller one, let's say medium size, which looks fantastic as a middle background in any flower bed. Of all my Buddleias, this one is actually the one I like the most. I like it, but I don't know the variety. I know it's the medium size one because I bought it somewhere at the market without a specific variety. Well, maybe if you know what variety it is, write it in the comments. I like it mainly because it doesn't grow too huge, it's accessible. You can cut the flower heads, and besides, Look how many flowers there are here. There will be more with many undeveloped flower stems. The color is a bit different from the previous two because it's slightly lilac, lighter. And these flower clusters aren't too big, but they really look great under bigger shrubs. And in front of them we can plant completely different plants. This year I'll divide it a little bit. Here I have 3 seedlings planted. So I think I can safely remove the middle one because it will grow anyway in such a way as to create a nice little wall. Write in the comments which one you like the most. Sophie, Peacock, or maybe this one. More the miniature variety. Hydrangeas are the next plants I'll tell you about and show you in this episode. Because there's something to be proud of this year. I have already mentioned in the last episode and on Instagram that my otaxi, meaning these garden hydrangeas, have bloomed this year like never before. It's basically one big flower. On a single stem there are even 4 or 5 flowers. They look very, very good. Why did they suddenly bloom like this year? I think I didn't do anything more than what I've done so far. So actually I didn't cover them, I didn't cut them, of course I didn't trim them. They were fertilized the same way, simply the April and May of that year were probably kind to me, and here in my area there were no frosts at all. The lowest temperature was +2 degrees in April, from mid-April and all of May. So that's why there are really a lot of inflorescences. And actually all my otacs look like this. I have 5 of them and they're all like that. In a moment I'll show you the one right by the terrace and by the entrance to the house, really. Here it's kind of a semi-shade. By the stairs to the terrace I basically have full sun, and by the entrance to the house I basically have full shade. There's basically no direct sunlight there at all during the day. Next to the otaxa I have a hydrangea, the limelight panicle hydrangea. It's already starting to bloom. Now you just need to look at it and analyze whether it will need to be tied up yet. Hydrangea limelight. Look, it's already grown quite a lot. This is the one that I pruned so much in the spring. Very short, but I left these shoots at the bottom to lift it up a bit so that I could plant some plants underneath. I haven't planned yet what will grow there permanently. That's why I have a bit of space here, but it's absolutely time now. For some, it's even a bit late to start tying up these shoots. Look, they're really very long, probably about 1 meter already. So if you want them not to droop, right now you can use a coated wire, preferably a green one, to tie them all together. Or if you have something to attach them to, just connect them to that element and they won't fall over. There's a way where you do it twice. First you do it here and then those taller ones are also tied up. Or you tie some to the others. In my case, it just so happened that last year I planted a new climber, Akebia, on my fence, and this Akebia has already started to spread here in the space between these flower clusters and has tied itself up a bit. So it attached itself to them and is on the fence, so they're already stabilizing themselves a bit. The limelight variety isn't blooming yet, although it still looks very good. And now come on, I'll show you another variety. Bobo hydrangeas. They're really blooming now. So we've come to my Bobo hydrangea, which is a miniature variety. It will never get as big as limelight or those other large varieties. It will always be about 1.2 meters tall, and it's a great variety for when you want something a bit smaller somewhere. You can plant it at the front of the border or in a narrow border. It works as a background without being too tall. Look, it's a bit earlier than lime and it's already started to color nicely here. That very nice lime color has appeared at the top, and there's a very creamy white color already at the base of the flower cluster. It looks great. These flower clusters aren't very dense. They're a bit loose. They have a bit of air in the flower cluster. It's different with Limelight. The flower cluster is very dense. Personally, I really like the Bobo varieties because they don't grow too tall and they're so subtle. I think they're the most suitable for small gardens. I have to tell you that honestly, until this year, I probably wasn't really a big fan of garden hydrangeas. Sure, I have them, sure. I like them, but it's not like I was really amazed by them. I said until this season, well, because, well, how can you not be amazed by such a plant? One huge, big, beautiful, spectacular flower. I don't even want to count how many there are on this bush. Flowers, but I dare say that there are 50, although maybe I'll try to count them and I'll tell you about it on my Instagram. So if you want some other information about plants, I encourage you to visit my Instagram because I also talk about plants there in short formats. Really, you can sit, look and admire, but you can also admire other hydrangeas because together with garden hydrangeas, most often tree hydrangeas bloom, the so-called, for example, Annabelle or strong Annabelle or many other tree hydrangeas. But in my case, I have Annabelles, and this year they also put on quite a show. Despite, even with heavy downpours and hailstorms, they're still not lying down. They're still standing, so I'll show them to you in a moment. My plan, my dear friends, for having hydrangeas grow under the rose arches is starting to take shape. Right now and here, that's pretty much how it is. Annabelle have grown this year, they haven't broken. Of course, they should have even more strings between those supports, then they would actually stand even taller. But with flower heads that are basically the size of my head, well, if a lot of rain falls, they have the right to lean over. The stems haven't broken, so that's a total success. Let me know if your Annabelles still look nice or if they've already broken. And I'm going to show you the last hydrangea that's in complete shade. This way you'll have a full comparison between these hydrangeas. Sun, partial shade, and shade. And see how they look, what makes them different. And this is the last hydrangea I want to show you. Garden hydrangea of the Otaxa variety growing in full shade. This is by the entrance to the house. There's actually no direct sunlight here at all. If there is, it's only for a very short time. It blooms just as beautifully as the previous ones, although I have the impression that the one in full sunlight looks the best, but maybe that's because it's simply the biggest one there. You have the full range. Right where it is for you. Garden hydrangeas work best, whether in the sun, partial shade or shade. And now I encourage you to watch the next episode, because in the next episode I'll show a bouquet. How else for Zero's Lotus? Straight from the plants in my garden, but the two main plants I'll use in this bouquet are hydrangeas. Garden hydrangeas and Buddleia, and a whole bunch of other additions that will appear in this summer bouquet. You're welcome to join me.